right, how's it going, Big Mo? Thanks for having me. Thanks for being on my show.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you having me on the show.
When was the last time we got together? I was on your show, right?
You were on the show for Farmers Insurance Group, the Innovative Thinking Group on Facebook.
Yeah, I still remember that conversation.
Yeah, man. It was one of my best ones, man. You do a lot of great things, and a lot of agents really wanted to pick your brain. So I got a lot of good questions that I was able to ask you.
Oh, cool. Yeah, but I think we both grown quite a bit since then, so it's gonna be cool to catch up with you. But yeah, why don't
Absolutely.
you share everybody, where your agency is located and a little bit of background about your agency situation right now.
Cool, cool. Yeah, so I'll take it back to where I started. I worked a little bit in my father-in-law's farmers agency, and that was man like 10 years ago or so. And at that point, he says to me one day, "You need to go get a job at AAA. You're fired." And I was like, "What? What happened? What did I do? Or we got problems?" And he was like, "No, no, it's time for you to start your career." And I had been helping him for a few years prior to that. But I wasn't licensed. I was helping with more clerical things and where I could help out. And then he said, go to AAA. So I did. I went to AAA. They trained me. They got me licensed. And you're familiar with them because you came from AAA too.
Yep.
So it's a great place to learn, especially for people that are beginning and not an agency owner and stuff like that. But they work you to death there, as you know. And if you're one of the top agents, you're not getting any vacation time or anything like that, granted. So I had some struggles, and once I missed my daughter's first steps, it was time to move on. So about 4 or 5 years ago, I started my farmer's agency. I was actually this close to becoming an Allstate agent first, but farmers came in and made me a bit better deal, and I went with it, man, and it was good. Um, Farmers is a great place for an agent to be because of the contract there and how open it is and how you guys can go outside if something doesn't work out with what farmers provides. But I had a little bit of a falling out with my DM, and things weren't as they seemed. I'll say with that great offer that they made me, and I found out when I went to go check my contract value one day and saw that it was zero. So things weren't explained to me as they should have been, and I eventually decided that it was probably best to move on from that situation. So last year, almost exactly a year to the date that we're doing this webinar, I went ahead and bought an Allstate agency. So I have a $5 million book now that I was able to grow an additional million since taking over. So we're closer to 6 million at this point, and I'm blessed to be where I'm at, man. So my office is in Mission Viejo. I'm in Orange County now.
Oh, cool.
I got away from the valley, bro. So yeah, it's a lot nicer down here, a lot very family friendly, and the people down here, I can relate with them a lot more too. And it's a solid place to be if you're an agent for sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure if you could continue this if you're with Allstate now.
Well, man, at the end of the day, we're all kind of fighting the same battle right now, being in California.
Yep.
As you know, the industry's got its struggles right now, and it's not just California. There's a few states that are they call the problem childs, but we've got a lot of restrictions in California right now that are limiting growth, and it's the same thing for you guys over at Farmers. And I hear this because my father-in-law is still a farmer's agent, 35 years later, and he's going strong. But I mean, for us to not be able to write like we used to be able to just last year, it says a lot about the industry and where it's at right now. Hopefully, not where it's headed, because at some point these things need to ease up. But hopefully, the Department of Insurance gets its act together and helps us agents out, just like they need to help out the customers. And that's really where it all started, is the Department of Insurance.
Yeah, it's funny how they think how protecting the consumer is actually hurting them.
Yeah,
Eh,
well,
eh,
they don't know better, man. They're it's an elected position now, and once politics got into it, it kind of screwed things up.
yeah, but yeah, let's go back to AAA days because that's where we have our similarities. But I could were you in like the call center or were you in one of the
No,
fields?
I was in the field. I started off in San Diego. I lived in San Diego for a while, and it was Mission Valley, one of the bigger branches down there. So when I got in there, I was with a lot of big fish, and I was really blessed to have that opportunity because they took me under their wing. They were actually very friendly and showed me what to do, how to do it, how to follow up, and how to close deals. And a lot of times when it was my turn to be on the floor, when somebody walks in and wants an insurance quote, if you're on the floor, they come to your desk. I was able to close that business right there and then. And AAA's rates are very aggressive. As if you're an agency owner, you probably know that because you get a lot of people saying, "Yeah, I just switched to AAA and can't compete." You know.
Yeah, if it's in their appetite, yeah, they know what they want. But yeah, it's a great experience, huh, as far as just talking to a lot of people, learning how to bundle,
Hmm.
and really going after that preferred business. So I could really relate with you. I think it was a great experience for me. I was in the call center, but just I could kind of imagine how difficult it is for an agency owner if they don't really have insurance sales experience, and that's exactly what we had.
Exactly. I mean, when you come in, if you just got licensed and you jump in being an agency owner, you're you just jumped into an ocean with a lot of big fish around you, and you don't really know how to navigate those waters because you're still trying to learn the insurance side of it. So that, I mean, I've got to thank my father-in-law for that, direction and him saying go to AAA and work there for a few years. And then he was the one that a few years later said it's time for you to start your own agency. Um, and he knew exactly what he was doing because we have a lot of family that is in the industry, and that's how they got started. But it's so different at AAA because when you're there, you're getting fed leads.
Hmm.
If it's not somebody walking in asking for a quote, they're giving you, all kinds of sheets. Here's the membership list, here's the non-renewed list, here's this list and that list. So you don't have a shortage of people to call or people to quote. So that is way different than when you start an agency. And I remember the first day I sat down at my desk, I was like, all right, now what?
Yeah.
you know, I didn't have those sheets. Fortunately, I thought ahead a little bit and kept a lot of the QQQ quotes that they used to give us, the internet quotes. So I had some quotes that I was going in and going through and quoting to get used to the farmer systems and stuff like that. But they don't train you how to train staff and hire staff and stuff like that. So there was still a big learning curve there, and to this day, hiring staff is one of the hardest things to do.
Yeah. Yeah, selling when you're an agency owner, like selling insurance is probably like the easiest thing. Like,
Absolutely, absolutely. The
but yeah,
sale is the easy part.
you're absolutely right. Like, I remember my first day because I was in the call center. I was like looking at my phone. It's like, why is it not ringing? Like, where's my quotes? I was like, oh yeah, I have to actually market. And then
Yeah,
yeah, training and staffing. Those are things that you can only learn if you actually do it. But yeah,
there's a
so
lot of trial and error with that too. The marketing side, the buying lead side. You see a lot of agents that talk badly about the lead companies out there and the vendors out there, and the fact of the matter is, a lot of those lead companies are using recycled information that you just got to learn how to kind of generate yourself, and then you don't need them anymore. So I thought about how I could do that, and realized, well, a lot of them are using social media, and they've got ads up there where people are filling in their info, and boom, then we get the lead, right? Well, why can't we just cut the middleman out and do it ourselves? So I went out there and learned how to do that, and that's where we generate a lot of our leads, is through social media, and by placing ads. And it's not hard to do. I mean, I took a course instead of trying to go and learn through YouTube and stuff like that. I took a course that was run by people who have been doing it for years and have cut out the trial and error part of it, and that saved me probably way more than what I paid to get into the course and do it. But that was the launching point for me because when I
mm,
got in and I didn't know how to market, didn't know where to get leads. I tried to buy leads, and my DM would tell me buy more leads. If they're not working, you just buy more. And I'm looking at him like, dude, you're defining insanity. You're telling me that it's going to work by doing it again and again and again, but it's not working. So I eventually figured, okay, I'm going to do it myself. And it did start to work because then I started to get into how do I position this to get relationships with centers of influence that could push more leads than what I'm providing them. So, I followed the fully covered method. I'm sure you've heard of it because any insurance agent's going to see it on their Facebook feed. But we go after the loan officers. You make those relationships with the loan officers, but at the same time, the information that you're pulling in, you use that in your agency. And agents that didn't figure out that you should be using that information are the ones that kind of struggled with the system. But there's so many ways out there to get new business, and you find that some agents just don't look past their nose kind of and would rather complain about, oh, this isn't working, but you've got to see the bigger picture sometimes. And yeah, it may not always work, but something will work for you. We're not all cut from the same cloth.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. I think if anything is worth our time, is to figure out how to get leads. And yeah, it takes time, and there's a learning curve, and you're gonna suck in the beginning, and you might have to spend money on courses that don't work out, or spend a lot of time. However, you learn, and there's a little bit of creative side to it, and there's a technical side to it too. So yeah, maybe it's not easy, but if you could figure that out, I mean, what better is it to get a lead that's just yours, real time, and um, they're calling you. Like, it doesn't get any better than that,
It
you know.
doesn't. It
So,
truly doesn't.
so I understand when people could say, yeah, it's hard, but I could share too that it's so worth it.
Absolutely. It's time consuming. It's hard. It may not work right off the bat. You've got to tweak things here and there. But man, when it hits the ground and really starts to start running for you, man, you forget about all that. You're like, yeah, this is why I started to do this. This is exactly why this is what I was going for.
Hmm.
And you finally knock it out the park, and that's it. You're hitting home runs from there.
Yeah, it's a great feeling when you have a campaign that's working well. You do have to adjust it every once in a while, but all that hard work pays off, and it's so scalable too. And it's just something that is, when I look at marketing, I feel like it's something that is not going to go away. Some forms of marketing, it's like you could kind of direction it's going.
Yeah.
It's not as going to be receptive. The ROI is going to keep getting less and less. But when it comes to social media marketing, it's like people are not going to be off their phones for a long time.
No, no, that's not going anywhere anytime soon. And you hear people say Facebook is for our grandparents and the older generation. Then you've got Instagram and now it's the TikTok generation. And I mean, just last year you could say that's an untapped market. Now it's a little bit more tapped because people started to realize that. But there's still other things out there like LinkedIn is a great resource, and people don't use it right because they're sending out those and you get these like automated systems that message people for you and stuff like that. But if you start pitching somebody right away without building rapport, and most of the time they're going to brush you aside. You're just trying to sell me something, right? But if you actually provide content on LinkedIn and you start talking to people and not try to sell to them right away, those people can be great resources for you. And that's what I've found out is, there's all sorts of markets out there that if you just use them the right way, they will pay off for you at the end of the day.
Yeah, I need to look into that. I need to do. That's one thing that I'm not doing is LinkedIn, but it's part of the reason is because every time I go in there, I just get spammed. I'm just like, oh, let me get out of here. It's like everyone's just trying to sell me something.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. It got to a point where I was like, yo, hi. How are you? Here's a little bit about me. What's up with you? But then I was like, all right, I've got to approach it differently because people are going to always try to sell to you. I stopped responding. That was just a waste of time. But if you're providing content I do a little bit of Web3 stuff, so I'm very involved in blockchain and stuff like that. And if you're providing content, reposting stuff that actually matters to people, you'll get people reaching out to you that really care about the industry
Hmm.
and will help you make other connections and network. And that's what it's all about as an agency owner is networking and growing and learning from others that have really boomed and started to make it. And that's, I really will say that starting that farmer's agent page is really what helped me come along as an agency owner and doing those webinars that I had you on. I learned so much from those people. And some people just think that they know better or they can figure it out themselves. If they don't want to ask for help, sometimes because they're shy to ask for help or embarrassed about it for some reason. But the ones that do, and the ones that ask people for that help and want to be taken under their wing, they're more likely to succeed than the ones that are just going out at it alone.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, that's awesome. You started that page, huh?
Yeah, I started that
Wow.
page and immediately started reaching out to the bigger agents, the Jesse Dryers, the Keith Wagners, the Dan Kitajimas, the Christina Masellis, and I wanted to know what they were doing and why it was the right thing to be doing and share that with other agents as well.
Hmm.
I didn't want to just hoard the information myself, but I wanted to help others and show them the value in that.
Hmm.
And there's so much value in it because one, you're making friends.
Hmm.
You're now not just a voice or a Facebook post or something like that. You're face to face with somebody, right? You have made a connection with them,
Hmm.
and you can openly ask them questions. And a lot of times, you guys are receptive. You're very eager to share the knowledge and help out others. I believe in karma, bro. Like big
Hmm.
time. Okay, if you're out there and you care about others and you want to help them grow, you're going to just grow naturally yourself. It's going to come back around to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Goodwill goes a long way. But yeah, that's really smart, and that's kind of what I try to do too. Is just learn from each other because it's so much easier to learn from each other's mistakes and what's working than just doing only your trial and errors.
Absolutely.
Because if you could learn from somebody else's mistake or learn from someone else's, success, then you're just learning so much faster. But yeah, when it says social media, that's like or social network, that's like a perfect like word for insurance agents because we're in the business of having to make connections and network and make sales and learn from each other. So I think that's really smart that you started that. Is it hard to kind of maintain, or is there a lot of work involved when it comes to
Well,
because it's a lot of members, right?
and then we get new members every day. And the thing is, the cat's out the bag. I'm not a farmer's agent anymore, and I own a page called Farmers Agents Innovative Thinking.
Right.
So one of the things I did was I opened that up a little bit, and you could be part of that too. I mean, if you want to be co-owner of that page, I'm happy to share it with others. But you get new people in there, and they're like, "Wait, you're not a farmer's agent, and you're an admin in here? Like, what's going on?" And I was very open about it when I was making the change. I announced it in the page, and we held a vote. Do you guys want me to concede this and walk away, or would you like me to stick around and try to provide more value here? And it was a landslide that they asked me to stick around and not leave the page. And I was grateful for that because you kind of feel like it is a little bit like your baby. Like I grew it from nobody being in there to over 4,000 agents and staff. And it took some work. It took time. It took energy, effort, all that stuff. But just being able to have those biweekly webinars and learn so much from other agents and share that with other agents, it was definitely worth it. Worth every second.
Yeah, I believe in that. I believe that it's there's even going to be things that hasn't even happened to you yet that's going to be worth is coming because of that page of some type of connection you made or just being known. It has had led to great things for me too, and I just want to appreciate you, Mo, for just letting you actually would like post some of these talks, and getting more awareness for this you know this show. So yeah, I think the content that you put out there is good, compared to other groups, because you could be a little you have to be a little careful which groups you kind of get yourself into, spend a lot of
Absolutely,
time in.
absolutely, and it's also hard to maintain positivity in the group, especially because
I
of the
bet.
state of the industry right now. So you get a lot of people saying, "Well, this has turned into a bit fest." Well, we're all in this together at the end of the day. Like, there's no one state that is standing above and beyond the other states, especially when it comes to us being captive agents. We have a lot of restrictions. The problem childs of the country right now are California, Texas, Florida, New York, New Jersey. Uh, they're having issues in these states. I mean, Allstate lost 166 million in the first quarter, so they're on track to have another losing year. Last year they lost 700 million. Farmers lost, I don't know, it was something close, if not a little bit more. State Farm lost 1.3 billion. So this, the grass isn't greener anywhere. And you get agents that they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to jump and be independent, and I'm going to take off from here because I'm going to have so much options. Well, you're not right now. You're not. And those independent carriers, they're going through it too. I talk to independent agents all the time, and they're having the same struggles that we're having as captive agents, if not more, because they have to deal with several different companies. So they've got to keep track of, oh, okay, I can do this with this company, but I can't do this with this company. This company is not writing anything right now. Like, whereas, at least we're streamlined a little bit more, and we know what our company expects of us and what we can and what we can't do. But you guys, you've got an open contract. So if a farmer says no to something, you're free to go out and do what you want. Whereas I'm a little bit more handcuffed. I've got what Allstate offers me, and then what they offer us, kind of like your Craft Lake. We have iVantage. So what we can do is we can do that or iVantage, but after that, the buck stops. Whereas for you guys, after Craft Lake, you can't find it. You can go wherever you want, and that's a big advantage for farmers agents.
U-
So
Usually in a normal market, I mean, still advantage, but like you said, getting appointments, people don't, carriers don't want business. So,
yeah,
uh,
yeah,
sometimes I'm like, hey, all the stuff that's non-renewing, I'm like, hey, I could write this much, and they're like, ooh, no, no, no. It's like
yeah,
being a
no,
big agency is actually something that's not a good situation right now because it kind of almost scares them. So it's kind
yeah.
of funny how everything's like upside down. But yeah, I always believe that, to have a good system, you have to have good staff, obviously, good leads, good lead management system, and the fourth piece is a good competitive product. So it's almost like we have, like, I have all three, I have three of them, but the fourth one, the product, that's pretty much what everyone's kind of facing right now.
Yeah, a couple years ago, that wasn't the case because we could find a competitive product. But yeah, it's tough right now, man. And I would still say one of the hardest things that I've dealt with as an agency owner is staffing. Um, and I've talked to several agents that are really good at staffing, and still I try to apply their methods. And I will say this: Vlad showed me something that I got more resumes out of than anything else I've done. So if you have Vlad's system, and he's definitely on the page, I can attest that yeah, that works. But then all the restrictions came down, so I was like, okay, great. Now I have all these people I can hire, and I don't have leads, or the company doesn't want me to write this, or this. So I'm just going to fill desks, and then what? So it's a struggle right now in California, but things will hopefully turn around in the next couple of years, and we'll get back to normal. And this is really the time to be building that network,
Hmm.
to be building those systems out and doing the trial and error on the social media, because you don't have to focus on hitting numbers right now.
Hmm.
Uh, you've got to focus on your retention a little bit more.
Hmm.
You've got to focus on getting your staff where you want them to be. So you have time to kind of to tweak out the things that weren't working out for you properly because you don't have those metrics that you have to hit for variable bonuses or compensation. So that's what most agents should, in my opinion, be
Hmm.
focused on right now.
I think that's a good point. There's a lot of things you could do to build your foundations right now. and once things open up, be in a position to kind of take advantage faster than getting things going after things open up, setting
Absolutely.
things up. So right now is time to set up our comeback. But
Yeah,
I gotta check out Vlad's system for recruiting. I mean, you're right. Like, it's kind of like I want to recruit because there's less competition right now too. Like lead costs are down. There's good producers in the market looking for jobs right now. So it could be a time to actually find somebody if it's within your agency's budget to find a superstar, because once everything is good, then those people are not looking for jobs.
yeah,
Lead costs are way higher. Everyone wants leads. Everyone's competing for. So it is a good time to still try to grow if you could find something that works for you.
yeah.
But
Where I've cut back on leads, I put it back into my staff. So instead of pocketing that money, I want their growth to be exponential during this time.
mhm,
Learn what you can, especially while I have time to actually teach you the ways. And you know, there's there's no one perfect system,
mhm,
okay? But there are systems that you can put in place that will really help people along.
mhm,
For staffing, some people like flat systems, some people like team hired, and the other ones that are out there. But there's no one that I would say is superior to the others. You've got to do what's good for you and your agency. And one thing you mentioned is the budget of your agency. Don't over leverage yourself in these times as well, but see if you can allocate and try to figure out how to generate your own leads,
yeah,
because that will take you farther than anything else out there. If you have your phones ringing, if you've got systems in place where leads are coming in through email, social media, whatever it may be, that's going to be what really launches you when the markets open back up and start to stabilize.
yeah, you're right. That's the number one skill to be working on right now, because that skill, no matter what's going on with the market, is going to be the most important. Because you could be the best recruiter or you could have even the best product, but if you don't have the leads, then that's the first problem you almost have to solve. So what is your strategy, if you don't mind sharing, Mo? I mean, that's a great point. I'm glad we're talking about this. But what are some of your strategies when it comes to generating leads on social media?
So I'll say this first. A lot of agents will hire new people and then say, I want you to generate 10 leads of your own, family, friends. I think that's a mistake, um, because not only are you kind of alienating your employee a little bit and kind of annoying them to do something that they may not be comfortable doing, right? Because maybe they don't have the skill yet. They don't want to practice on their family and friends and sound like they don't know what they're doing. Or maybe they just came from a great company where they signed up all those people and now they're like, hey, I switched companies, by the way. And that could be an uncomfortable situation for them. So instead of doing that, have those leads and just make them run with it. And then during the slow times or something like that, say, hey, see if you can generate a few of your own leads. Call, your family, friends, whatever. And then they'll be more comfortable with you at that point where they'll be like, yeah, I could do that. Right. So what I found works for me, one of my best systems is I actually try to generate uh, leads for my loan officers. So I have ads on social media asking people, hey, if you're paying rent, why are you paying somebody else's mortgage, right? Uh, Here we have systems and deals in place where we can help you get into your own home and build your own equity in that home. And we'll get a lot of leads through that. Not always the best credit leads because they think something's going to be handed to them sometimes. Uh, and loan officers, if you get the right connections with the right loan officers, they don't care if they have good credit or not because they know that building a pipeline is essential to their overall growth.
Hmm.
Where we had trouble was during COVID when everybody was doing their refinances. The loan officers were way too busy
Hmm.
and they were like, I just can't get to these leads because of everything else that I'm doing right now. I don't have the team for it. But guess what, guys? mortgage rates are not the same as they were a couple years ago. So now those same loan officers that I used to have in those systems that were like, hey, pause me for a while, they're hitting me up like, hey, you still got that going on? Because we'll gladly take those leads right now. They're struggling. A lot of that industry is hurting more than the insurance industry is.
Yeah.
You know, I know people that have closed up shop and moved on to other industries because they're not doing the same kind of volume they were before and didn't prep themselves right when things were booming. They over leveraged.
Hmm. Yeah. So it is pretty much kind of what fully covered teaches, huh?
Yeah, I took that and I tweaked it a little bit because one thing that fully covered doesn't teach you is you can use the leads that are coming in for your own benefit.
Hmm.
So I would have somebody. I had a virtual
Love
assistant
those.
that called every single lead that came in and said, "Hey, I'm with the loan officer, and we want to make sure you're properly insured going into what could be the biggest purchase of your life." Simple script, worked. I'd say 80% of the time. Okay, and then they would pass the lead to one of the producers, and we would close a lot of business out of that, even if it was just a renter's policy. Oh, you don't have you're renting and you don't have renter's insurance. Well, you know you're open. Your liability is wide open there. And you know, renters policies, they're not a ton of money, but guess what? You just earned a client, and eventually you can bundle that into something else if it's all you get out of them is a renter's policy. But we would write auto out of it too.
Absolutely.
So yeah, there's ways to tweak every system that you're going to learn for your benefit. You've just got to, you know, don't try to reinvent the wheel at the end of the day. Those guys, they really know what they're doing when it comes to the ad. So I'd never questioned how to do something inside of an ad, but I was getting all this data, and I was like, I'm just handing these off to loan officers. Why aren't we calling them? And we were getting about 100 leads a month in the beginning. That's gone up a little bit now because I've increased the ad spend on it. But that's a lot of leads for $400. That's all we were spending at the time. You go try to find any lead vendor to give you 100 leads for $400.
Yeah, I see how good they are.
Yeah,
Wow, that's a great story, Mo, because it just shows how curious you were, and how open you were to trying things. Because I do feel like some agents, and you'll sometimes hear in the chatter too, like, oh, that program is a scam, or they just have such a cynical view of some programs or agents trying to help other agents.
yeah, yeah,
Whereas you jump right in, and I'll give you a lot of credit for that, jump right in, learn from it, kind of tweak it, and improve your operation
yeah.
from
And I'm not going to say
from
I
there.
wasn't skeptical. Like when I first came across it, I was like, that's a lot of money. Um, you know, let me talk to somebody that's done it and had success with it. And of course, when you say that to any company, they're gonna show you, hey, look, this is our price, and talk to him, right? And they're gonna be an agent that's knocked it out of the park and didn't have any issues with it, and they're not gonna tell you anything bad about it. And then you're gonna see people, like you said, in the groups that say it's a scam. You can learn how to do that yourself and all this stuff, right? But would you rather learn something yourself off of YouTube or have access to somebody that's been doing it for 10 years and knows what to do and what not to do? To me, that's a no-brainer. I'm paying for the experience all day long. Like that's going to be my choice every time. And the agents that I've seen buy it and it didn't work out for them, it's because they didn't put in the time to figure it out. A lot of times, those guys, they have calls twice a week. Okay, if you're not getting on those calls to ask the questions, how are you going to figure it out yourself? It's just like trying to learn it from YouTube at that point, because you're learning off of videos. You're going to have questions naturally. So I would say whatever system you decide to buy or go with, put the time and effort into it. Don't just think that because you paid for it, it's just going to work. Because there's no magic button that comes with any system.
Boom. Yeah, great point there. Whatever system you have, you gotta put your time and effort, and it just takes work. It's just not gonna be built for you.
Yeah, yeah.
But what you pay for the information. Now it's time to implement that.
Yeah,
Um,
one of the biggest annoyances I had, because I used to be an affiliate with Fully Covered, so I would pitch it to people because it worked for me, and I would never get behind something that didn't actually work for me. But I would get people that are like, yeah, let's do it. I'm gonna give this to somebody in my office, and that's gonna be my marketing person. But dude, you just paid all this money, and you're not gonna learn it yourself. Like you're just gonna, I don't have time for it. You give it to somebody else to do. But who cares about your agency more than you do as the agency owner? And
Yeah.
I would say that to people, and they're like, yeah, but sometimes they wouldn't take it seriously, and sometimes they would and actually go in and learn it themselves. That's the biggest thing. You've got to put in the time, effort, and energy. Because if this were easy, everybody would be an agent, right? Everybody
Yeah.
would be an agency owner, and
Yeah.
everybody would be super successful doing it.
Yeah, I think there's some jobs that you could delegate and train, like sales and customer service, but the marketing is a job that the agency owner should do. I feel, unless unless you have a huge agency and you have somebody that's experienced and talented at that, but that's such an important job that, I mean, we got to do something. So
Yeah, no, I strongly agree with that. Nobody's going to care about it and do it like you do, because this is your baby at the end of it. This is your legacy. This is what you may pass on to your kids one day. This is your retirement. This is everything.
yeah, and
And
if
if
your
you don't,
agency is your baby, then the leads is like the milk. Like that's like your job. You gotta find a way to feed the baby.
got to feed the baby. Got to feed the baby. Absolutely.
And then Vlad's system, man, Vlad is just, I can't believe how smart that guy is. But
Man, that guy's on another level.
yeah,
Yeah, I've learned a lot from Vlad too. His system of generating resumes to hit your desk daily,
yeah,
it works. It works very well. So anybody that's struggling with hiring, I strongly suggest you take a look at that. But his systems also are great for training, because that's another thing. As an agency owner, you wear every hat, right? So you bring in somebody new that's not licensed, you help get them licensed, they still don't know how to sell. So you've got to have systems in place that really streamline all of this for you. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck sitting next to somebody at their desk or telling them, okay, come over here. I'm going to call this lead, listen and on how I do it. But when you have those systems in place that are training people, that have those weekly calls to show the new people how to do it, the role playing, and Vlad's system isn't the only one out there. You've got the RPOA with the Olson Agency. You've got Craig Wiggins out there. All great programs. It's just what fits for you, and find your groove at the end of the day. But a lot of people that come in and don't make it is because they don't look for that additional help, additional resources. They may tell themselves, I can't afford to do that. But you're probably spending money elsewhere where you could cut back there on something that's not working for something that is going to benefit you in the future.
yeah. And it's, sometimes we have to kind of understand that their systems are better than our systems, and just get rid of your ego and say, hey, like, let's let the experts train us. And what is happening is you're buying back your time too, because if you don't have to spend all the time training, and if it's even better, then that investment becomes even more worth it.
Yeah, if you ask me what the most valuable thing to you is, I'd say my time.
Yeah.
And because we've got families too, man. We've got kids that we want to see grow up and stuff like that. And if you're the only one that's working in your agency, it's going to be really hard for you to catch any of that.
Yeah, and that's a lot of us got in this business for that freedom too. So
No, I'll take it back to AAA for a second. I remember at my interview, the guy interviewing me said, "Hey, I know you just had a kid. If you're thinking about being a soccer coach down the line and stuff like that, this isn't the right opportunity for you. This isn't going to work out for you." And I thought he was testing me a little bit. Like I was like, "No, man, I'm all in. This is what I'm going to really be doing." But man, when I got in there, he wasn't lying.
yeah,
He was telling me the truth 100%. Where it's like, once you're in there, you're working like a dog for us.
yeah, yeah. I remember. Yeah, when I started there, I wasn't married or had kids, so I fully bought into that. Like, and that was actually my national personality, maybe even. So, but yeah, definitely taught me hard work and how to close people. The training there was great too. So,
And second to none, I still have my my Dale Carnegie Award.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's in my office somewhere, probably sitting up on my on the file cabinet behind me here. But yeah, man, it's second to none when it comes to training and getting your feet off the ground. So, if you're watching this and you're not an agency owner, and you're not in the insurance industry, and you're catching this on YouTube somewhere, go work at AAA. They're a great company to start with. That's a great launching pad for you.
Yep. One of the things I will say though is that maybe they actually teach you how to be not a good manager though. So it's kind of like you learn like okay, my experience with them was like okay, if I ever become a manager, I didn't even think I was gonna be an agency owner, uh, but towards the end, but it kind of teaches you like okay, if I was going to work for somebody, that's not how to be.
Yes, yeah. A lot of the IBMs there are, yeah, not great. They approached me about that role a few times. I was like, nah, I'm good, I'm good. And they also don't make as much those managers, so they're always pushing other people to close more business so they can make more. But you control your own destiny as an agent.
Yeah, I do feel that there's a more like a manager was valued higher than the agent though. And then once we get into this type of culture, it's more like the agents are more valued,
Yeah,
and which
yeah.
is kind of like, in my opinion, kind of, not the way it should be like all the way, but I felt like the agent were really looked down upon, and the manager was like highly superior, and that was what was refreshing about farmers. It didn't feel that way.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It's more of a revolving door over there. What have you done for me lately?
Hmm.
And then the manager's always got the preferential treatment from corporate.
Hmm.
And at the end of the day, that's what they are. They're corporate.
Hmm.
And so they're always going to have each other's backs. Whereas, here, and our companies have our backs first and foremost.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, where do we go from here, Mo? I mean, like, tough situations that we both face ourselves in. How do you try to make light of it, or does it stress you out? Like, let's be real here. Like, what's kind of like going through your mind as restrictions, things change.
You know,
We want to write, but you know.
yeah, I'm dying to get back to it. I'm dying to get back to it, especially because, man, I mean, Allstate, once they bring back our variable comp, we're getting 30% on new business auto. You tell me another company that does that, okay? And then 30% at first renewal. So you're making 60% on premium in that first year. There's not a lot of companies out there that are doing anything like that. Now they did roll it back for California, so I'm chomping at the bit, hoping they bring it back in the next year or the year after that. In the meantime, I'm focusing on the systems, making sure that my staff is ready to go as soon as we open back up the markets here and start to normalize. But right now it's tough, man. Um, I try not to stress over things that I can't control,
Mm.
and I learned that years back because I used to stress about everything. And you're not going to have a very long life stressing about everything. And you're not going to enjoy your life stressing about everything. So, right now, my wife, she always tells me, I hate how laid back you are and just don't stress about things. Where, my dad's telling me what's going on at Farmers. And like, are you going to be an agent in 5 years? And I don't know, but you know what? We'll figure it out. Like if they decide to shut down insurance in all of California and insure through the government, yeah, we're all screwed. Sure, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. I'm not going to speculate that that's going to happen in the next 5 years, and that's not how to live your life. But I take it one day at a time, man. Like things are going to change. They're going to continue to change, and I keep hearing from people that it's going to get worse before it gets better. And they've been right. They've been absolutely right. Like right now, I can't even bind an auto policy before I go inspect the vehicle. You guys have a 25-day waiting period before you can, put something into place. So yeah, it's tough right now. The markets are absolutely crazy and upside down, and I get it. They showed us the numbers and justified why they're taking these actions. And you can't sustain a business while taking hundreds of millions in losses. You'll be out of business eventually. And then I have clients that tell me, well, what about all the other years that they were making billions of dollars? And I'm like, our CEOs are still making 23 million. That money's going somewhere. It's not just sitting in a bank account. They've got to stay fluid. They've got to be able to pay for these claims. They've got to pay out where they must take care of people that they are insuring. So when new business is costing them $1.90 on the dollar, whereas the business in place is costing them 90 cents on the dollar, I understand why the restrictions are in place. So again, I try not to worry about things that are out of my control and focus on the things that I can write. Right now, they're pushing life, right? That's what they want us to write. So we're pushing life. We're going after people in a different way. So one thing that's really working out for me right now is the hey, you just bought a house. Do you have mortgage insurance? Hey, you bought a house 2 years ago. Do you have mortgage insurance? And that's a fancy term for what? Term life, right? So there's still opportunity out there. Just because you can't write auto doesn't mean you can't write anything. So I still have people focusing on the right things that we can do at this time. Commercial, it's gotten really hard for us. At Allstate, they cut off commercial at the beginning of the year, but I still have other carriers that I can write with. So there's opportunities out there. You just gotta get past your own insecurities sometimes. If you're not comfortable doing something because you love to write auto and home, you better get comfortable doing something else, because especially if you're a new agent, if you were a scratch agent, if you have a smaller book that you're not going to survive during these times, you've got to innovate.
Yep. You gotta adapt. It's not the strongest that survives, it's the most adaptable. But yeah, that was great stuff right there, Mo. It's just you just said it. The best way to say it was just control what you can,
Yeah,
and instead of focusing on what we can't, focus on what we can. And if you look hard enough, there's gonna be stuff you can write.
yeah. There's still opportunity out there, and I learned that from other agents like you, man. That would tell me sell what's on sale. If farmers doesn't have the appetite for something, they want to write something else because they've got to keep money coming in at the same time. So sell what's on sale. If they don't want you to write auto right now, focus on the life. And I understand that you guys have to hit certain life numbers just to keep your commissions in place. So just because I'm not a farmer's agent anymore doesn't mean I don't feel it. My father-in-law is still a farmer's agent. His brother's still farmer's agents. I've got my cousins and other family that are still farmers agents.
And
So
you own the page.
and yeah, and a lot of my friends are still farmers agents. So I still deeply care about everything that's going on at farmers just as much as I care about what's going on in Allstate and affects me. You've got to adapt, like you said. You've got to turn into the roach. If you don't adapt, you're gonna die. Instead of being the dinosaur, be the roach. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, life insurance, and sometimes you got to look at it in a positive way too. Hey, if it wasn't for this, maybe we wouldn't have built these systems for life insurance that we have now. And once things open up, then we're going to be both in strong, both lines.
Mhm.
I think just having a perspective of like, this is a learning lesson. This is the time to work on this, which I wouldn't have if things were open up. If it wasn't for the situation, I wouldn't have learned how to quote with these other carriers for commercial. And it's just trying to find a positive in everything because I still feel like we're super blessed, and once things open up, it's even going to be better. So, we're still feeding our families, we're still spending a lot of time with our families, we're still providing customer protection and our staff. Sometimes we got to take a sacrifice, but that's what leaders do. Delay gratification a lot longer than maybe we initially thought we have to.
Yeah.
But the more I think we put in the work during these times, once it opens up, the stronger we're going to be, and we're going to be able to, if you're able to survive these times, then you're just going to get off with the momentum going into it.
The reward's going to be massive.
Yeah.
If you get through these times and you make it to the other side, you're going to be the ones that are in line first to be rewarded, especially if you have the systems in place and the staff to do it. And if it's one thing that a struggling agent is going to take away from this webinar, I would say find another agent that's doing it and doing it big. We see the numbers. We know who the big agents are. And if they won't help you out, reach out to another one. But don't be shy about it. Ask. Ask questions. There's nothing wrong with it. You'll find that a lot of people are receptive and they will help you. They'll point you in the right direction. Uh, People used to ask me all the time, "Are you making money off of these companies that you're posting on Farmers page?" I wasn't. I wasn't asking for it. Sometimes they would offer me to use their systems for free, and I was okay, sure, but I wasn't making money off of them. And if you find the right agents to point you in the right direction, that's where you're going to find your success. Because if you're struggling, you're not doing something right. And all you need is to find somebody that is doing it right to kind of tweak your methods.
Yep, that's great advice. Just learn from somebody. A lot of times you just have to just exactly copy what they're doing in the beginning and then start tweaking things as you go. And I want to add another thing to that is to also help out another agent that might be a little bit beneath you. So you want to have a relationship with an agent that's doing much better than you, and you also want to have a relationship with another agent that you could help out too. Because when you actually help somebody, you're actually reinforcing things that you're almost telling yourself what you should be doing. you know, so,
100%.
so I really believe in not only receiving from somebody that's doing better, but passing that along with somebody that needs your help. And actually, that's the way you end up helping yourself too.
Yeah, I've never brushed off a question from an agent or somebody that reached out for help because I'm no better than those agents. And I was there
Hmm.
when I first sat down at that desk and said, "Okay, now what?" I was there. I didn't know what to do.
Hmm.
And these newer agents, newer agencies, the smaller books, if you have under a $3 million book, that's considered a smaller book. Because in times like this, those are the ones that are really going to have a hard time to make it to the other side. Where attrition is happening and you're not able to write fast enough to keep your book where it is or growing, it's tough. It's tough because you get used to a certain level of lifestyle. You may have bought a home that you own a mortgage on. You may have had a child or something like that. Well, never turn anybody away that's asking for help because you were there at one point in time yourself.
Yep. And then wouldn't you agree that when you help somebody, you actually get a lot value out of it yourself?
Yeah, sometimes I learn something out of what I'm trying to show them.
Yeah.
And maybe they'll show me, "Oh,
Yep.
you missed this,"
Hmm.
and I'm like, "Oh, dude, I never even thought about that." And it's yeah, absolutely, man. You'll get a lot out of helping others,
Yep.
100%.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of the page you have is that's really built just to help agents out. Like if you have a question about, hey, this lead source or this and that, you can put some questions in there. You might get some, you might have to filter the comments, but if someone really smart's comment something, sometimes I've learned a lot from these, you have to be careful again. You do a great job of moderating, the the overall morale of the group. But there's a lot of value in there.
Yeah, and that was the reason why we created it. It was me and another farmer's agent that thought of it and wanted to run with it. He was just starting his agency. He was scratch, so he didn't have the time to put it in like I did. And so he stepped back, and I was like, all right, well, I'm not going to just delete the page now. I think we had maybe 700 people in there at that time, and I just kept at it, man. And it's grown. It continues to grow. And yeah, some people leave because they're no longer farmers agents. I almost had to do that myself. But we're gonna keep that group for farmers agents and farmers agents only. And it's going to continue to be a place where you can learn from others, and that's what it always was. That's what it always will be. Is a sanctuary for farmers agents to grow together and help one another out.
Yeah, great stuff. What's the it's farmers innovative thinking?
Yeah, farmers agents innovative thinking.
Okay, cool. And is it a private one, so you need to get invited, or how does that work?
If you search the group, you can find it. You will have to request to be added to the group, and I ask people for their company provided farmers emails, and you'll be surprised how many times I catch people that aren't farmers agents trying to get into the group, and we just deny those requests, of course. But yeah, it's just an added method of verification that you're really an agent.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Well, if anyone's listening, I recommend checking it out and requesting to be in it because yeah, it has value to me. So really appreciate what you're doing out there, Mo. So yeah, anything else you want to add to bring value? Any advice or like, man, I think
Uh,
you're a systems guy, and
yeah.
I don't think we even talked enough about that. But share us one thing that has been, as far as system is concerned, a kind of like a must-have or a
Okay.
game changer.
Yeah. We can definitely wrap up with that. But I think you need more than one system. And there's a lot of value to having your own CRM because if you ever did decide to leave the company or start something else, you're taking your data with you. All those leads that you ever purchased, the ones that you didn't close and all that stuff, that goes with you at the end of the day. So I do use Agency Zoom, highly recommend it. I had Mariah build out my automations. Again, highly recommended because you're going to go in and try to figure that stuff out on your own. It's going to take a lot of tinkering and trial and error. But she's perfected her systems and her methods. Mariah Gates has been a great resource and great friend to me since the day we met in 2019. Um, but within those systems, like so, for example, when we're using Agency Zoom to market and send things out, I have our link for Canopy Connect in there and a QR code. And you'd be surprised how many times we get random, emails saying, "Oh, you just got so and so's deck pages," and we're like, "Oh, this came from Agency Zoom because it's just sending out the emails regularly, daily." So you've got to have systems within the systems that work to bring you more information that you can quote with. Because it's great when somebody replies and says, "Yeah, sure, call me at this time to get a quote." But even better when you get all their deck pages and know, oh man, if they would have called, they might have asked for an auto quote. But this person has auto, home, motorcycle, boat, and a life policy over there or something. So you get everything, uh, and that's just part of building your systems to kind of suit your agency. And don't over leverage yourself doing so. If you can't afford to do all that, start with one thing and start to add as you grow.
Yep.
That's going to be the best advice that I could give to anybody. And those are the systems that I primarily use.
Nice. Yeah, that's so true. I feel like that's gonna be something that will never stop as agents is tweaking the systems and adding things to it because it could do so much for us. But yeah, I see a pattern here, Mo. You just keep talking to the best and smartest in the business, learning from them.
That that's really been my growth strategy.
Yeah.
Is what are they doing that I can do so I can get to where they are? And eventually, you kind of you pick their brain enough to kind of figure it out, and then the light bulb goes off, and boom, you're off and running.
Yep. And at the very least, you're not taking the time talking to the wrong agents, because you're spending time with the right ones.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I've learned so much from you. Just that day that we did the webinar with you, I learned a ton from you. I pick your brain from time to time, and surrounding yourself. What do they say? Your network is your net worth.
Yep.
100% true in all aspects of your life. Whether you
Yeah.
want happiness, whether you want money, whether you want growth, surround yourself with the right people, and that'll happen for you.
Yep. And then you make that investment too. Yeah, these courses aren't free, but it's so worth the time and the money and the effort to learn and then to implement it because they're the reason they're working is because that's their specialty. So
Yeah,
just really great
yeah.
stuff there.
Yeah, and not just investment monetarily. Invest your time and effort into it after that. There's no magic button. There's no magic course. Nothing's going to fall in your lap after you pay for something. You've got to put in the work to make it work.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah. That's a must. And sometimes when you spend money, you should be wanting to put more work into it because you already made that investment. So you can't just like halfway just do it as just pay the money and not do the work. So
Yeah, but I mean, sometimes these things are expensive, right? So you get the mentality that it's like, I paid so much just to be working. But it's not how life works, you know? Like, I'll give you an analogy for that, right? You go out there and you buy the fancy car that you've always wanted, right? But it's not going to drive itself. You've
yep,
got to go in there and drive it, learn how to drive it, because if you bought a speedy car, if you can't just drive it the way you drive other cars, because you'll probably wreck it, right?
yep,
So you've got to learn and be willing to go in there and put in the work and effort.
Yeah, or like if you buy an agency, it's not like going to run itself. You got to go in there and put in the work in the agency.
Yeah, and a lot of times when you buy an agency, it's because the old agent wasn't doing something right, or he's retiring, so he probably rolled back a lot of the things that were working for him that now you're going to have to start to implement again.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't get complacent. That's number one fatality right there. Is you get complacent, you're just going to lay down and die at some point.
Yeah, it's almost like you need to do both, because some agents are really ready to work, but they're not really ready to put the money in. And the flip side of that is some agents are willing to pay the price. I mean, pay the monetary price, but not willing to put in the work. So if you have an agency owner that is not afraid of working hard and spending the money, I think that's the combination that gets them to the next level.
Yeah, that's the winning mix right there, man.
Yep. Cool, Mo. Well, yeah, thank you for being on the show, man. I'm really grateful of our relationship. And you live in Irvine now, huh?
I do.
Yeah.
You're not too far from me, so I'll pop in one day and say hello.
Yeah, I live in Irvine too. Yeah, great city for family.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Your office is Mission Viejo, so I think you made the right choice. Yeah, I grew up in LA County and moved down to Orange County. So yeah, we'll be learning from each other. We'll be seeing each other obviously on social media all the time. Very active on there. I recommend everybody to follow you and the group too. And just learning what's next, because I just feel like we want to surround ourselves with agents that are looking for new training, looking for new systems, and I really feel like you're just one of those guys that are always looking to, and a great resource for agents all across the nation.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me on, man. And let's continue to innovate together.
Definitely. Sounds like a plan, Mo.
Oh,
all right.
Thanks, man.
Thanks again. See ya.